Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter. Please hit that like button, subscribe button and notifications button. This is, of course, the second of a two-part episode where we delve into classical mythology and the intersection with boxing. In the first episode, we spoke about the parallels and the aims and personality and stature of Anthony Joshua and the King Memnon. Well, once again, we shall immerse ourselves in the world of history and legend and consider Oleksandr Usyk and his parallels with the hero Jason. So lend me your ears, my friends. Sit back, relax, put on a brew, and listen through. Jason was the heir to the throne of Thessaly. However, his father Iason was overthrown by his half-brother Pelias. Pelias not only took Iason's throne, but he attempted to cleanse his descendants to ensure that there would be no challenge to his newly acquired power. Jason's mother pretended to give birth to a stillborn baby, and he, Jason, was then secretly given to the centaur Chiron. Half human, half horse, Chiron was a rare, moral centaur, and he took on the responsibility of raising Jason and training him in the art of war. Chiron was his Anatoly Lomachenko. When Pelias had undertaken the act of slaying Iason's descendants, he visited a psychic oracle and asked if anyone would be a threat to his throne. The oracle warned him to beware of a man with a single sandal. The years passed away, like summer leaves falling to the ground before being swept away by an autumnal breeze. Pelias still on the throne, but his paranoia remained intact. Now, aged 20, young Jason was on his way to partake in the games being hosted by Pelias in honor of Poseidon, the god of the sea. On that journey, he came across an old lady. It was the goddess Hera, wife of Zeus. She was in disguise and she asked for help from young Jason, and he did indeed help her, but he lost the sandal in the process. He arrived at the edge of Locus, observing the shining kingdom with a palace on a hill. He was observing from the shadows of the woods. He surveyed all that was rightly his, and he took a deep breath. Then came that first step, out of the shadows and towards his kingdom. As he entered the palace, the king was informed of a visitor, a man wearing a single sandal. It was the day Pelias had feared, and Jason proclaimed himself as the rightful heir to the kingdom. Pelias demanded that Jason prove who he was and that he was worthy. So he set him a challenge. He would have to travel to a faraway land, Colchis, which is what is known today as modern-day Georgia. He was asked to retrieve the golden fleece of a divine ram. King Aedes was the owner of the fleece. An oracle had given the king a prophetic warning. He would lose his kingdom if he was to ever lose the fleece. So he kept it sacred, guarded by a dragon in a sacred grove. There were challenges enveloped in pitfalls and coated in seeming impossibility, but he accepted the challenge, and after acquiring a crew of 50 heroes, he would board the ship, the Argo. Jason and the Argonauts would venture out into the unknown world in pursuit of glory and gold, bidding to take what was rightly his, and to etch their names in the annals of legend. The Greeks considered themselves people of civility, culture, and morality. In fact, they saw themselves as the world's enlightened ones, and as a result, straying far from the land of Hellas meant leaving the country of light and stepping into the shadows. A world of fear and danger where only heroes dare to tread. The first port of call for the Argonauts was the Isle of Lemnos. Jason had fallen in love with their queen, Hypsipyle, and she was pregnant with twins. The Argonauts stayed for 2 summers, living a life of contentment. However, despite being content, Heracles had shamed the men for their lack of warrior spirit and their willingness to sacrifice a dream in order to have stability and amenity. This was the wake-up call they needed, and they decided to leave the island and to pursue fortune and glory. Hypsipyle was heartbroken, but Jason had promised that he would return. So they boarded the Argo and set sail for the world beyond the light and into the shadows. The next obstacle they faced were the Straits of the Bosphorus, a narrow corridor of water connecting the Greek Aegean Sea to the Black Sea of the unknown worlds, where only the bravest warriors would dare to tread. This strait posed a seemingly impossible threat, treacherous crashing rocks that had consciousness and would seek to kill anyone that crossed. When pondering how to solve this unsolvable puzzle, they came across Phineas, a former king who was given the gift of prophecy. The king committed a terrible crime, however, and it offended the gods, and so he was given a choice. You will either die, or you will be blind. He responded, I'd rather never see the sun again. This infuriated the god of the sun, Helios, who interpreted this as a personal insult. And so, additionally to being blinded, harpies were assigned to torment him by stealing his food. Whenever he was attempting to eat, they were winged demonic-looking creatures who would sweep immediately after him touching his food. But two of the Argonauts promised to chase the creatures away in exchange for the secrets of safe passage. They agreed and delivered. The man would eat once more. He informed them of how to overcome this treacherous strait. He told them to release a bird, and the rocks would collapse upon it. They must sail quickly, and they must make it through the rocks before they come back up to their perch, ready to crush again. And so, the second problem was also solved. It enabled the men to reach Colchis, and they saw another shining kingdom on a hill, with a palace at its peak, ruled by King Aeetes. Once again, they stepped out of the shadows and towards it. The king opened his arms to the men and organized a banquet. They explained that Jason was there to take the fleece that had belonged to his ancestor, unaware of the prophecy warning the king that he would lose his land. So the king set a series of challenges for Jason to overcome to prove that he was worthy of the fleece. First, he must yoke fire-breathing bulls to plow field and sow dragon's teeth as seeds in the earth. What the king had hidden, however, is that sowing these teeth would spawn the rise of paranormal warriors that would attack them. However, the king's aim was to ensure that Jason was to be killed. But there is one thing he did not foresee, that his daughter, Medea, the princess, the sorceress, would fall in love with Jason. The Argonauts would accept the challenge. The bulls were extremely imposing. They would beat the ground with hooves of brass and iron and would send out a dry whining from their throats as they breathed out fire. The sorceress Medea decided she must help her new love. The princess provided him with an ointment that would make him invincible to fire and iron just for one day. So she revealed to him her father's heinous plans. He took the potion. The king watched in awe as Jason seemed invincible against the fire and was able to tame these brutish bulls. So the next step was to sow the dragon's teeth, and the seeds sprung and rose quickly and turned into soldiers of bone, highly skilled and vicious. But Medea had also provided Jason with another spellbinding solution. She gave him a stone to throw at the warriors, which would make them turn on each other. So, when they launched battle, they wouldn't just be fighting the Argonauts, but fighting themselves. It was a free-for-all. But the soldiers stood firm, and the creatures that rose out of the land began to kill each other. Finally, it was time for Jason to step into the grove. There, he saw the beauty of the golden fleece, glistening like golden-colored crystals. It was hanging on a tree, protected by an imposing dragon the size of a ship. Jason simply could not overcome such an obstacle. Simultaneously, the king had ordered that the Argo be burned to the ground, and the Argonauts be executed. But once more, Medea would provide the solution. The solution was a potion that would send the dragon into a hypnotic sleep. Jason was able to dodge a series of attacks before closing the distance enough to apply the potion. As the dragon lost consciousness, Jason would be able to claim the fleece and board the Argo with his soldiers and, of course, with Medea. More trials were faced by Jason and the Argonauts. These included the sirens who would lure sailors with their enchanting song towards the rocks to watch them crash and perish. Scylla and Charybdis, two sea creatures that can destroy ships, and Talos, a metallic robot from Crete that would seek to engage in war against them. Those exciting tales are left for another day. However, what is pertinent is that Jason's story would end in tragedy. When they finally made it back home, they discovered that King Pelias had killed Jason's father and his mother had died of grief. Retrieving the golden fleece was clearly an exercise in futility, so Medea decided to trick Pelias too and poisoned him. Jason reclaimed his throne, but the subjects were wary of Medea's magic, and so the people turned on the pair, and they were forced to flee to Corinth in exile. However, just like he saw Hypsipyle as disposable, replacing her with Medea at the drop of a hat, so too was the sorceress considered to be less than indispensable. As Jason's pursuit of glory took precedence, in Corinth he would go on to marry not his lover Medea, but the princess of Corinth. As the phrase goes, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, particularly a woman like Medea, who had shown a willingness to vanquish her own brother. A sense of betrayal and envy began to eat at her very soul. So, she sought the ultimate revenge. She killed her own children, children that were fathered by Jason. Jason's future was bleak. He was once a great hero who had overcome creatures of the deep, villainous kings and hostile territories. Nonetheless, he was now a wanderer, a broken man without a purpose. His flesh and blood had been slain by a woman who he once loved, a woman whose lips he had tasted, whose scent had enveloped him during the nights of passion, a woman whose heart had embraced his soul. He returns to the breached hull of the Argo, and here the beam of the ship, which had the ability to speak, had rotted, and as he sat beneath it, it broke off. It collapsed, falling onto his head, killing the great hero, his very own ship, that had provided him with countless memories of glory, had been the cause of his demise. But there are parallels with this story and those of Oleksandr Usyk. The Ukrainian warrior has also boarded his own version of the Argo, that is, the sport of boxing. The sport has taken him around the world, from the comforts of the light into the shadows and dangers offered by foreign lands. And all of this in the pursuit of glory. Much like Jason, the conquests have been immense and the accomplishments legendary. Olympic gold medalist, winner of the Super Series, undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world, and a top 3 fighter in the pound-for-pound list. Jason could have also been gratified at any one of his achievements. He had an option of remaining happily married and in love in Lemnos, but he fled the comforts of love and security in pursuit of honor, fortune and grandeur. This was the equivalent of Oleksandr Usyk's gold medal at the Olympic Games, an incredible achievement, but it was not enough for either man, neither Jason nor Usyk. They both wanted more. The Hellenic hero then pursued the ultimate glory in retrieving the golden fleece. He overcame perils and trials on his travels, and he got the treasures that were rightfully his, just like Oleksandr Usyk had to slay monstrous beasts in foreign lands to lift his golden belts, belts he saw as rightfully his. Once again, Jason could have been satisfied, but he wanted more, always pushing boundaries in pursuit of glory. Just like Oleksandr Usyk, not content with all the belts at cruiserweight, he left them behind, like Jason left Medea, in pursuit of higher heights. In the end, Jason found a tragic demise, and we must ask, does the same fate await Usyk likewise? The ship, the Argo, the very vehicle that carried Jason to the realms of dreams and sensation, is what led to his own termination, just like a Lemnian husband sleeping with a Thracian. Will the sport of boxing, the vehicle that carried Usyk to the realms of success and elation, also cause his own annihilation, or will it carry him to further progress, adding another chapter embellished with finesse? One thing is for certain for now: a kingdom on a shining city on a hill is headed by a warrior king on a throne. He surveys his kingdom built with sweat and blood and glory and pain, and it covers almost all that the eye can detect. But on that perch on a hill, he can also see the blackness of the woods and the border of the land, the shadow that hides warriors with their own expansionist aims. Warriors with envious eyes, seeking a golden prize and thirsting for his destructive demise. Can this man of renown hold on to his crown, or does his future belong in a lowly gallows? Come Saturday night, a warrior like Jason takes his first step out of the shadow. Thank you for watching, ladies and gents. Take care, and God bless.